Our learners are coming from a variety of backgrounds. We have people coming from almost regular homes to children who stay in backyard dwellings, which is when you have a property and you put up wooden structures or shacks in the yard of about 4 or 5 of them in one backyard, and the children would live in that, where there is no electricity, there is no running water, no sewerage at all. So they would live in that. And then you also have children who live in purely informal settlements, which is a collection of shacks where also many of them have no running water, toilets are put up by the department, etc. These are the things that affect the children and their ability to learn. The children who present problems, as we put it, it's not a problem child, it's the behavior that's problematic. Our children are beautiful children. We have the best children of any school that you can think of. The children who have the problematic behavior, many of it is learned, because you remember a child is an empty vessel. When a child is born, that child is empty. It's what we pour into that child, and that's what makes the child the way they are. And many times our children are exposed to really negative influences. If both your parents, first of all, have no respect for schooling or for education, that's all they're going to preach. So the chances of that child dropping out before they finish grade 12, that is very strong. Even before they finish primary school, that is very strong, the chances of that. We have alcoholic parents, we have parents who are on drugs, we have gangsters in our area, severe gang problems. Poverty is the worst thing ever, because that child grows up not knowing anything. That child knows nothing. Food is a problem. The children, we thank the Lord, we have a feeding scheme at our school where the children are fed a warm cooked breakfast every morning and a cooked meal every day. And many times we even battle to keep that going, even though we do get stocks. The stocks are never enough, because here at our school, the children, it depends on what's happening in the community. We have 75% of our children on all pay, which is a government grant of about 400 Rand per child per month. When it is all pay time, which is the end of a month, then there is generally something to eat at home for 1 or maybe 2 days. After that, it's back to struggling again. So maybe for around about the end of the month, 2 days, our feeding scheme, there are not as many children, but we are 875 children at the moment. We should be about 920 next year. And we have about 500 children approximately who eat every day from the feeding scheme. When the child comes to school hungry and they've slept since they leave the school till the next morning, maybe many of them have had nothing to eat. So when they come to school, they're starving. And now how do you still expect that child to be learning at school? And secondly, even just behaving. We've had instances where the police, unfortunately the police have my phone number, my cell number. So they phone me regularly. I was phoned one morning at 6:30 because the people complained there was a boy, one of our boys in full uniform, begging at the bus stop. 6:30 in the morning, I had to go and collect the boy. And why was he begging? He was begging because there was nothing at home to eat. He just wanted money so he could buy himself a packet of chips. So malnutrition is definitely a problem. As somebody put it so aptly once, they said our children have missed out on the pro-neutro phase. Now pro-neutro is a very nourishing porridge. That's something that our children will never learn to enjoy or appreciate or benefit from. Our children are normally smaller than other school children. They are not as well developed as other school children. When we take part in the athletics competitions, it's actually sad to see what happens, the difference between a well-nourished child and one of our children. Our children are fast out of the blocks and they start running, and very soon it's like somebody just pulled out the plug, and they're the children, they just fade to the back of the pack again because there just is no energy. These are all the factors that compound when there is bad behavior involved. So many times it's not just behavior, it's all the other factors. I think that the one thing that's lacking in our area, first of all, are males. Males who matter are totally lacking. Our area is run by women. And that's why I always praise women and wish them well in the month of August, which in our country is National Women's Month. We always praise the women. They run the homes. They make sure that the children are fed. They're the ones who care about them, care about the children, those who wash the children, dress the children. We have so many good mothers in our area. The males are just there to impregnate, pull up their pants and leave. That's why sometimes in my meetings that I have here, I actually get the people to give a round of applause to the daddies who are actually in the meeting. And you'll find out of a meeting of about 600 parents are present, you maybe have about 50 daddies. And that just shows you the role. So that said, we have a serious lack of role models. And when we have yes, in our case, a lot of males, but generally role models in general is what we lack. And I think that if we can get more role models coming here, role models that the children can relate to, in terms of if you have a role model where the person was born with a silver spoon in their mouth and they progress to this, that, it's not as effective. That's why somebody like Zeekovlei's story at the moment, which is trending on the internet, that kind of story is a real powerful story. But not only, look, he is now not from Lotus River. There are quite a few heroes in Lotus River itself who have made something of themselves. We must stop that the learners want to idolize the gangsters and the gang bosses in the area, because this is generally what happens. Boys aspire to be a gangster or a gang boss, and the reason for that is the power that goes with it. And the gangsters are very clever, because gangsters, they operate on a brotherhood. Our children don't get all that love and attention at home. So the boys who are lacking love and attention, they find it in the gangs, and the gangs are very clever because they offer the boys that. They look after them, they care about them, they give them little bit of things here and there, and this is what brings them in. So if we can break that cycle, my dream is still to have a big brother and a big sister program at our school, which is also based on local heroes, where we have people who come in. I once wanted to approach a huge company, but the problems that's associated with that is you must always be careful of, there could be risky people who are part of the group, a big group, who you are exposing your children to. Because my dream is still, for example, on a Wednesday afternoon for an hour, we are 873. You bring 873 people here, whether it's a male or a female, and they get to sit for an hour somewhere on our premises, anywhere, sit on a one-to-one basis with our children. And that is the kind of interaction that you need. That is big brother and big sister is a massive role models on a huge scale. So I don't think one can stress the importance of being a role model. Us as teachers here, myself as the principal, whether I'm a male or a female is irrelevant, but the principal must be a role model to the children. I must always be a role model to my staff. My staff must be a role model to their children in the class. Our prefects must be role models. Our parents must be role models to our children. I think it was Tiger Woods that said, if all parents were to take their job of being a role model more seriously, we'd have far less problems. And that is so true. We really need to get into gear as adults, take up our responsibility. The education department, they need to be an example to everybody around. The politicians need to be examples. We must be, as adults, we must take our role of being role models very, very seriously. I think that if we talk about how can people help the school, I think just being involved and knowing what's happening at the school. We are actually now, funding is a huge problem, but we are actually now going to start up a what's it called? A website. I'm not a very technical person. A website where we're actually going to have a Zeekovlei primary website where people can see what's happening, what we've achieved, everything else. That is something that we're really aiming for. I think the one thing that I must mention here is that our school is rather unique in the area. We have no security at our school, and the reason for that is because we have no trouble with our community. We are basically one of the only schools that has a beautiful relationship with our community. We have not had, I'm here 6 years now, we've never had one burglary. We've have our gangs that we have in the area are right opposite the school, the headquarters. We haven't had a day's trouble with anybody in this area. The school is seen as a good institution. They see us as doing good and making a difference in the community. They know I'm just stating the fact, but they actually know my name. And when I drive through the community or I go into the community, it's good to see people and children calling my name, because it means that they have a connection to the school. People are already telling me, the little ones in their nappies, they're telling me that they're going to come to my school. And I think that's very touching, because it shows that we are making a difference. So in terms of safety and security, our school is well respected. That said, we are a no-fee school, which means that the government pays for everything, all the books and the money they give us. But unfortunately, the money that we receive is just about enough to cover real basics. We fall far short in terms of many things. So fundraising is a huge challenge. If we have a big fundraiser, if we raise 1,000 or 2,000 rand, it's actually a lot in this area. And so what we need is we need cash flow in terms of that people can maybe assist us. For example, if we can get companies who pledge 500 rand or 1,000 rand a month for a whole year. So if we can get 10 companies, 50 companies, 100 companies to do that, that will increase our lives tremendously. Our children are so deprived in terms of getting out of the area. We have majority of our children have only been in Lotus River. Many of them haven't even been to Wynberg. They haven't been to Ottery or anything. They stay in the area. One year we managed to get money from a group of people, and we took every grade on an outing. Each grade went to a different place. And it was tear-jerker stuff, because the children getting out of the area, it was mind-blowing. I was asked to assist with the grade ones who went to Butterfly World. The children were on a bus. For many of the children, they had never been on a bus before. We went over the bridge. You had to hear the children scream. And I said, "What is the matter?" They said, "No, they've never been over a bridge before." And I mean, you take it for granted. It was here in Lotus River, there are no bridges. So the bus went over the bridge and they didn't know what was happening, because the bus went up and then down. And then so the next time we went to the next bridge, they were looking forward to the bridge. And then they were cheering, and the exposure that they got. We've taken children on outings. They see outside. I took boys once. We had a group of boys who were struggling with some serious problems, and we worked with them for 8 Saturdays in a row. We took them out on an outing to the stadium. There's a park in front of the stadium, and we took them there. 5 of them traveled in my car, and the trip was so amazing. The things that they saw in the car is things that we take for granted. I just happened to pass a Lamborghini that was coming along, and then he pulled next to us, and then he accelerated away. They were blown away because they'd never in their lives seen a car like that. The little things that we take for granted. Our children need the exposure. I think outings is a major thing, because if you go on an outing, I promise you, the biggest thing is the transport cost, because it's horrific how much they charge you for a bus to take our children. And we can't just use any bus, we must use a safe bus to going. So we always encourage that if, for example, people would like to sponsor an outing, you won't only sponsor the outing, you will go with, because that will be okay, because what will happen is that it's your money that you are donating to our children, so you must go with, because how many people will get an opportunity to spend a day with our children and to have them having a great time with them? Those are things that we need. Our library, We had a great help from a young lady, Miss Rachel Colisi. She helped us tremendously with our library, donated books. So we're now at the stage of improving the library to such an extent where we're trying to get more books. And so money or books are something that we really need in that respect. We had another company, an international company, based one of the branches in Cape Town at Canal Walk, JTC. They are a funding solution company. They sponsored a garden. I mean, wow. It was, I think, 40 meters long and 3 meters wide, the whole garden. Each class has a section that they tend to. These people, they sponsored the plants, they sponsored the fertilizer, everything. That has beautified our school. There are many other areas in our school that need beautification. So coming on board, they have now sponsored that, but they haven't left us. They are staying involved with our children. Our kitchen, as I've said earlier, the kitchen, they they feed the children. The food doesn't last because we only get so much food. The food that we have in the kitchen is for 250 children. And I mean, we feed 500 a day. Our teachers regularly put their hands in their pockets because there's a company called Food Lovers Market who came up with this thing of combos, where you can buy a pocket of potatoes, a pocket of onions, a bag of butternut, things like that for 100 Rand. So regularly our teachers do that. They buy these combos and they bring it to school. And then we add that to the pots of food that are made, and it just stretches the food. So that's the kind of funding that we need. Our children are so poor. School uniform is a real issue, and if we can make sure that our children wearing school uniform, it will be a wonderful thing. Shoes, our children walk, the furthest that our children walk to school, we've got about 85% of our children walk to school. Many of them live close to the school, but the ones that live the furthest is 3.3 kilometers one way, which means that 6.6 kilometers a day they are walking to school. Shoes obviously don't last very long. We try our best to get shoes. We have many other places that give us second-hand shoes and things. They are welcomed because the children just don't have it. In winter, our children must walk those distances in the pouring rain, and they get to school soaked. And that's why in winter, our school uniform is an optional thing, because you just come to school in whatever you have, it's dry. So these are the things they are seriously lacking. I think that the whole occupational therapy project that has been our school as receiving from University of Cape Town together with other role players, I think it's a fantastic program, because firstly, it exposes the university students to our school, which I think is very important. And many times all visitors that come here, I like to expose them to what's really going on here. All my staff members, I take them personally on a tour of the area. The OT students, I also take personally on a tour of the area, so that you can better understand where our children come from. So when they come here and what they do with our children, they are doing something which is so amazing. They work on a one-on-one with children. Now that is unheard of, where a child gets somebody's full attention. And I think that is so touching, because that OT student is working on that child, and that child, many of them thrive on that one-on-one. Some of them misbehave for the simple reason they're not used to all the attention. They don't like the attention being focused on them, so they will still play up, but others react to it. And I think that is helping them to develop into much better behaved students and more driven students. I have interacted with the teachers. There are some of the children who haven't made 100% improvement, but there are definitely children, I wouldn't like to mention too many names, but the children, for example, there's one very troubled boy that I even have involved the court in trying to get him into a special program where they can help him, because he's really wayward behavior, comes home 2 o'clock in the morning from school. He's really involved with all the wrong friends. He has calmed down a lot now in this recent time. And I put it all towards the OT program, because they've also been working one-on-one. One of my boys especially He has made a 100% turnaround. He is a totally different boy, and he has been, it's like in him, they've instilled this, that he is an amazing child. He has the ability to do anything, and he has changed totally. He is so well behaved, he is so helpful. He's now become teacher's right hand person, and whereas he used to be out of school, he didn't come to school, he was using substances. He's a grade 4 boy, which makes him 10, 11 years old. He was on substances. He stopped all that. He's working very hard. He looks forward to seeing me, because I try my best always with the children who have challenging behavior. Whenever I see them in the playground, I would always stop them and ask them how their behavior is, things like that. And many of them wouldn't be very happy to see me. He, on the other hand, is always happy to see me. I was so surprised the other day. He actually came right to my office to ask me for marbles, which is something which took me by surprise, because I always think that some of the children, they are a bit fearful of me. And yet he came right up to ask for marbles, and I gave him marbles, and it has a huge effect, this whole program that he has had. I would recommend. We are the envy of many other schools. If I mention to people the University of Cape Town's occupational therapy students are involved in our school, people always ask, how do we get them as well to come? It's an amazing program, and I highly recommend it. My staff. We have a staff of educators. I've got support staff made up of my secretary and my cleaning staff. And then we've got some volunteers here. We've got teacher assistants who help out here. I've got counselors. We've got 3 counselors at our school who still can't find the time to get to all the work that they have because of all the challenges. I think that anybody who works at our school here, you have to have a special heart, first of all, because to work in such a poor area, at such a poverty-stricken institution, you need to have a big heart. You must be able to take a lot, because it gets you. When I started here, I was really overwhelmed by what I saw and what I had to deal with. I think the cleanliness factor, the lack of hygiene facilities, things like that, it becomes overwhelming for you. People ask me, why do your children come to school? Our children actually come to school to get, there's a nice saying that says, the children who get love at home, they come to school to learn. Those who don't come to school to get love. And that's our children. They come here to get love. And it's so touching. Our children come to school for the food as well. Our children, unbelievably, come to school for the toilets, because we have flushing toilets. We have running water. There's soap here at school, which is a luxury, because our children stay in the informal settlement. It's either the bush or it's the council supplied toilets that have no locks on the doors. There's no privacy. It's actually very dangerous, things like that. So our teachers need to deal with this kind of thing. They offer love to the children. I always say that if there is no relationship, a child will never learn. And our teachers have to create that environment in which that child can learn. A child coming from an abused background, a child that comes from a family, a family where there is abuse. How does that child actually come to school to learn? We find here that the teacher is the reason why the children also come to school, because the teacher is the only stability in that child's life. They can rely that their teacher is going to be the same every single day. We find here that when a teacher unfortunately is ill and they are absent, the children are actually quite out of hand, and the reason is because that stability has been removed. And I think that just reminds us on a daily basis how important the role of that teacher really is. The teachers go through a lot. The WCED, the Western Cape Education Department, has a wellness program where teachers can access help if they need counseling, if they need debriefing, anything like that. We've actually had wellness in here in my 6 years. They've been here 4 times to help us with trauma. We go for trauma debriefing. We've done it 4 times. The teachers go through tremendous amount. Since 2010, we've lost 11 children. They've passed away. Since I'm principal, I've buried 7 children, which has been traumatic. It's been different reasons. Nobody's died at school, but it's in the community. It's illness, car accidents, drowning, electrocution. 2 of our children, which were girls, were brutally murdered. One case has never ever been solved. The other case turned out to be a dad that murdered her. It's traumatic because there you need to, first of all, when you get the news, you must first absorb it. Then you need to call your staff together to tell your staff. Of course, you first call the teacher in, who's the class teacher, tell that teacher before you tell the staff. Then we need to tell the class that the child has passed away. Then you need to inform the rest of the school. Then it is a memorial service. Then it is the funeral. And that is traumatic. We just lost now, it's now 2 months now since the last child that passed away. He was killed in a car accident. It was really tough. And when you walk in there to tell the children, now you're standing in front of the class and then you see the open seat. I mean, it just melts you away because you just want to burst out crying, but yet you know you must be strong. And that's for our teachers as well. They have to be strong for everybody. They have to be there to motivate our children. They have to be there to help the families out. We have so many cases of fire in our community because it's an informal settlements. So many of the shacks burn down regularly, and then we just have to get together and we have to get some groceries and things and clothing to try and help out the people. It really takes its toll on you. That's why when the end of the school day arrives, we find that so many, our teachers are exhausted just from going through what they have gone through for the day. When holiday comes, you look forward to your holiday just so that you can get a break. And you need to recharge because your tank needs to be full before you can give to others. And I think our staff, not our teachers alone, but our staff, everybody who works here, they are angels. They are really angels. It takes a lot. I think that many of the people, including the WCD, the education department, many of the people are clueless as to what goes on here. I have a boss, my immediate boss, who is my circuit manager, Mr. Rodney Tice. He is a blessing in disguise because he was a principal at a similar institution to ours. So he understands fully what we go through. So the support that we get from him is, wow, I can't describe to you. But there are many others who are lost. They have no clue as to what is going on here. And I think that if we can get more understanding and we can do more for poor schools, I think that we're going to make the circumstances, the conditions, the help that schools like ours should get, we would make that so much more, and it will make our lives so much easier because we cannot support all the schools in exactly the same way. We cannot paint every school with the same brush. We are different. We are different in so many ways to other schools. And we need to get different support. I am grateful for what we do get from the government, but I still just feel that they should differentiate the support because at the moment, the posh schools, they get exactly the same support that we get, which I don't think is very fair. So, yeah, I love my staff. I wish I could treat my staff every day. I wish I could treat them just to say to them, which I do say to them, thank you for what you are doing. Your love, your time, your energy, your efforts are appreciated.